And okay, we're recording. So let me share my screen again. Okay, so before we go any further, I'd really like to announce the new ambassadors for 2020. Now, we've got lots of ambassadors in London now, and even more new ones that have come out of the kind of London Tug community. So I want to give a big congratulations to everyone on this screen. So if you don't know, the ambassador program is split into 5 different streams. So you have data dev, Tableau public, social, user groups, and forums. So in London now we have 4 brand new data dev ambassadors. Now the data dev ambassador track was brand new for 2020, and it's amazing that 4 of those people have come from London. So we've got Lane, Chris, Anya, and Andre. We've got 3 new Tableau public ambassadors from London. So we've got Soha, Safana, and Priya. We've got Tableau Tim, who's on the social stream. And I want to give a big congratulations to our very own Laura Sanford, who is a fellow London Tug co-leader and is now a user group ambassador. So congratulations, Laura. We're very proud of you. That doesn't mean that we've lost Paul Chapman, because he was the user group ambassador before. He's just moved to the social ambassador stream. In terms of other updates, you may have heard that Tableau recently launched a data literacy free e-learning program. So this was launched, I think, around the time of TC-ish. This is completely free to use, and they're offering 5 hours of free training content. If anyone has used the Tableau e-learning platform before, this is essentially the same thing, but this aspect of it is free. It covers 7 modules, I believe. I've listed them all on the screen here, but I highly recommend you check this out. Share it with your colleagues as well. They don't need to be Tableau users. This training is data literacy in general. It's not Tableau centric. So please do check this out. And then certification exams. So this again is off the back of TC-ish, but currently all exams are 20% off if booked until the 7th of December. Now, that doesn't mean you need to take the exam prior to the 7th of December, but as long as you book it in and pay by the 7th of December, you can use that 20% off discount. Again, please scan the QR code. We'll share the slides afterwards as well to find out more about this offer and how you can get that money off. I do highly recommend getting certified in Tableau if you can, and the certifications for both desktop and server. So please do check them out. Now, in October, it was Tableau-ish, which was like the Tableau conference virtual alternative for 2020. Hopefully you had a chance to check it out. It was completely free. If you didn't, the recordings, or even if you did, the recordings are now available on the actual conference platform. So they've all gone into like kind of an on-demand area. So I think they're only going to be available there for a limited time. So try and have a look and check them out while you can. Some of the bigger talks, like the main keynote or Devs at Desks, have been uploaded to YouTube on Tableau's YouTube channel, so you can find them there. But all of the other talks are going to remain on the Tableau platform, like on the conference platform, until it gets shut down. So have a look while you can, or have a look at the other ones on YouTube as well. And my final announcement is IronViz Student Edition. So this is again something that was announced during IronViz at Tableau Conference-ish. This is an IronViz special, especially for students. If you don't know what IronViz is, it's a contest where essentially you enter a visualization and the top 3 visualizations get picked, and you enter a contest where you have to build a visualization in 20 minutes live, generally on stage, but I think it will be virtual in the current environment. Now, the deadline for this is the 20th of December. The theme is environment, I believe. So if you know any students, or if you're a student yourself, then definitely check this out. There are prizes to be won, so it's well worth getting involved. And it's just a good way to kind of like get your work noticed as well. Okay, so without further ado, I'd like to welcome our first speakers of the night. So we have Eve Thomas and Vinodh Kumar, who are going to talk to us about the Viz to Educate project. Let's see, if you want to start presenting now, Eve and Vinodh, please come on.
Hi guys, great to be here.
Hi Eve.
Okay, so great to be here, as I said already. Me and Vinodh are going to tell you a bit more about Viz to Educate, which is the new initiative launched a couple of months ago now. Today is just intro me and also talk to you about kind of like the main of the project, go through the structure, and then Vinodh is also our moderators program as well. So who are we? If you have, if you guys are active on the online community, you've probably heard of us. So at the moment, I'm a data visualization consultant, and I do actually have a background in teaching English as a foreign language. And I've also got a background in HR, and I've always been passionate about education. I did do a couple of years of teaching. And I think, well, my Tableau public does probably reflect that. I do try to make business that are kind of friendly for kids as well as adults. And Vinodh, he's an NLP bot and data analyst. He does a lot. So he's fourth community project. He does the SDG project, Mentor and Meetup, and Viz Connect. So I'm sure you know him. I don't know how he does it. And he also has a passion for education. So the reason we started this was both of us actually have a lot of friends within the teaching community from either family or from, for me personally, my previous teaching experience. And we've had teachers ask us before to create visualizations for them to teach with. And the feedback we've got from them is that the kids really enjoy it. It's really interactive, and it just sort of really adds something to their learning. And so we came together, must have been about 4 or 5 months ago now, and just we just sort of dropped into conversation with it really, and then thought actually we could do something to really help teachers using data viz. And that's where the idea for this was born. So we're really excited about it. We're really hoping to get some of you guys involved, and I want to quickly talk you through how you can do that. So the main goal of this, we want to use social media and data visualization to create an online gallery of educational resources for teachers and students to use globally for free. Tableau is obviously perfect for that because we have Tableau Public, but we are open to other data viz as well. So if perhaps you haven't used Tableau yet and you are really, really good at another data source, so long as it's got data viz, as long as it's got a way for teachers to access that for free, we'd love you to get involved. So we also want to try and get the next generation involved in Tableau as well. To me, giving them these resources and allowing kids to kind of really get into Tableau and play around with it, hopefully will open doors for them as well, and will encourage them to start building as they get older. And yeah, we each month, let me go to the next one. So the project breakdown is quite simple. I've tried to map this out for you guys. So each month, we're going to share a post with that month's chosen topic. So I'm sure a lot of you already know this month for us is geography. We're also going to post some useful links for you guys, some websites. In this month, we gave you a big long list of different topics that we'd love you guys to cover in case you want to join in. And throughout the month, as we receive these submissions, we are going to be highlighting them from the community, and we're going to be publishing our own visits as well. Going forwards, we are going to hopefully have moderators on board as well, and Vinodh is going to go through a few more details about that on the next slide. But going forwards, as we receive those submissions, they will be moderated by our team of moderators as well, and they will be giving some feedback to us about whether they do match their global syllabus for their chosen countries, and if it does, great. If it doesn't, then we want to try to improve those resources as much as possible, so that teachers can really get the most out of them. And then at the end of each month, we'll share a blog post discussing our own visits, and we'll also be discussing submissions from the data community as well. So I'm going to pass over to Vinodh now, so to talk about our moderators and what we're looking for.
Eve and hello everyone. By now, you all would have got an idea about the project, And for any project to be successful and impactful, the most important thing is the participants. The visitors they creates an impact for the cause as well as spreads awareness. But for this project, apart from participants, we also needed volunteers who can support us in running the project, as the project scope is sort of huge and we have some large expansion in pipeline. So we decided to create a role called moderators. So who's a moderator and what they do? So moderators are someone who is good at data viz and or having teaching experience, or someone who has experience in the education sector. But we don't have any hard and fast rule. If you feel you have something valuable to offer to the project, we would be very much interested in hearing from you. We are also happy to have someone on board who has strong teaching community connections, be it in family or friend circle. Okay. And what are the roles of a moderator? We are still this particular thing of moderators is still in a very nascent stage. We are still finalizing on what are the roles and responsibilities. But for now, what we have in mind is like they are going to help us curate the syllabus content for the topic for the month based on the syllabus from their country of residence. And they'll also help us to review the submissions made by the participants to make sure that we are providing the correct information in the quizzes aligning to the global syllabus. They also take care of proofreading the contents. So once and we also have another role, responsibility, which is it's like which will come into picture once we start, involving the teaching community in the project extensively. So which is something in the earlier part of next year. So each moderator will be paired up with one or more teachers from there, and they'll become the bridge between the project and the teachers. So it's also a long term goal. So down the line, when we will also hear from the teaching community, as in the teachers, they will reach out to us by giving us a topic, and we will create visualizations for them. So, and as of now, we have 15 plus nominations, and we are looking for more. So, please do join us either as a participant or a moderator, and let us work together to empower teachers to, build a better tomorrow. So, yeah.
I'm just going to go onto the moderators page now.
Eva, I think you're on mute.
Can you guys hear me?
Eve, we can hear you. Yeah.
Oh, you can. Okay, sorry. I was like, oh no. Cool. So we're just going to go onto the moderator. Oh, that is Twitter. Do you guys see the screen?
Is that right? You can see the submission form.
Is Vinodh still there? Has he dropped off? That's fine. I'll talk you through the website. So for the moderator submission form, so this is our Viz to Educate website. If you've not been to it yet, please do check it out. It's viz2educate.com, so easy to remember. And this is our moderators application page. So it's really easy to apply to be a moderator. We just ask for a name, email, whether you're a teacher or working in the education field, and your country of residence. And your Twitter handle, sorry. So, as Vinodh said, like, we would love to hear from you. We're looking for anyone who's got a teaching background, if you've worked in education before. And it's not, that's not necessarily like a requirement. If you think you've got something you can really add to our project, then we'd love to hear from you. expert in data viz, even if you've just worked with kids in any kind of capacity, that would be great too. Please get in contact with us. So this is our moderator's form. We've also got our submission tracker as well. So if you guys want to, I'm hoping that you guys will work with us. It's really easy to submit your viz. So just name, email. We have asked you if you're a teacher or working in the education field. That's just because we already have some teachers using the website and getting involved in the submissions, but obviously it's not a requirement for you to be a teacher to viz with us. So that's our submission tracker. We have our blog on here as well, which we will be adding to later on this month. And we already have some amazing vizzes in our gallery, which I wanted to highlight here so much to everyone in the community.
Eve,
so far.
Can you? I think you touching the microphone.
Yeah.
Like every time you move the screen, that the microphone goes muffled.
Oh, okay. Can you?
I can still hear that
now?
you like touching, like every time you move the screen, that your microphone kind of makes a lot of noise.
Oh no. Okay. I'll try to be as quiet as possible. So yeah, this is our gallery. If you guys want to check it out, we've got some great visitors in there already, and it will give you guys some ideas of the kind of thing that we're and Vinodh have out with that. Yeah, I think that I don't know if Vinodh wants to add anything.
While we're waiting for him to come back, I'm not sure he's still on. Can I ask a few questions? What age group of like students are you targeting with this?
So it's a really good question. I think like I was in my mind it was sort of 11 to 16, but equally, you know, we want to help as many people as possible, as many students as possible. So if you have, you know, if you are aiming for a younger age group, that's absolutely fine. I think further down the line, we're probably gonna, once we have enough visitors for different ages, we're probably going to sort of split them somehow. So there's going to be like a search function. So if teachers go in looking for something suitable for ages 8 to 10, we'll have a search feature in there for them. At the moment, I think all of our visitors are probably, like, from the ones I've seen, are all kind of ages between 10 and 16. I don't want to say like specific year groups because I know that varies by country. But for us, well, the UK, it would be sort of secondary school
And the
level.
current topic is geography, right? And when's the deadline for that one?
So me and Vinodh were discussing this today. The deadline for this is going to be the first week of December. Going forwards after into next year, we're going to make this a monthly project. This time round, because it was the first month, the first topic, and because I think we've had a bit of election stress, COVID stress, and everything else, we thought we'd give people a bit more time to get their submissions in. But going forwards, it will be monthly.
And how are you sourcing the teachers? So I know people can sign up to be moderators. Are you also kind of, do you know teachers already that are in like the education field, like working at schools? How are you sourcing them?
It's a really good question again. So I have quite a few friends in the teaching community. So for me, I'm just going to be reaching out to people to begin with. I know that Vinodh had a few ideas around that. I don't know if he wants to jump in on that question.
So the idea behind it is like it's still in a very nascent stage. So what we are planning is like the contacts we have. So both myself and we, the contacts we have in the teaching community and their friend circle, and that way we will be building a like a list of teaching contacts, and from there we'll take it up. For now, it's like we are not working on it. So our first idea is to get the gallery ready, and then we'll have to take it to the teachers, and from there, it'll go ahead.
Okay, and so I'm sure we've got some parents on today. If they want to kind of get involved, maybe speak to the teachers at their children's school, is there anything that we can do to kind of like help with that process?
Yeah, that's right. That'll be
Yeah, that
great. Yeah. For now, we're actually not focusing on reaching out to the teachers for now, because the first thing is like when they look at our website, they should be able to understand what it is about. For that, like at least 1 or 2 months, when the topics uh, are completed, we'll have a gallery of visits. So then we showcase it to the teachers, and through their connections, it'll reach more teachers. And after we have a solid number of teachers who are extensively uh, actively participating in it, then we form more like a community, and then we map our moderators to those teachers, and we work together with them. So that's the roadmap we have.
Okay.
Yeah, I think next year I was planning. Well, I've been speaking to some of my teacher friends already, and we're thinking of approaching schools and things. But from next year, as Vinodh said, we kind of want to get the gallery kind of up and running, so it's very well. So it's in a position where teachers are in a position where they could just log on, and whatever subject they're teaching, we would love to have a viz for that. So at the moment, we've only obviously just got geography. We have had a few other people submitting fantastic vizzes on other topics as well. Just so if those people are on the call, just so you know, we haven't quite got around to moderating those yet. We've been focusing on the geography first, but we had one that was brilliant. I think we've had a few science ones as well. So we are starting to build up those vizzes. I think for the moment, we just want to get the gallery to a point where even if we just have 2 or 3 solid topics, so that teachers can really have like a good idea of how they can really use
Yeah,
this
as
to enhance
Eve
their
said at the
teaching.
start of the session, the whole idea originated from her friends as well as my friends who are the teaching community. They were reaching out. They know that we work on Tableau Public and everything. They just wanted more like to show a viz in one of their sessions. So we have created for them. So that's when we thought, okay, so why don't we do it like a project, and help uh, in a better way. So we do share our visits. So
Yeah.
for now, we only have this context.
What I've been doing is if I've seen anyone post a viz that I think fits at least the geography theme, I've been telling people to submit it for this project. I would encourage everyone to go through their kind of like Tableau public portfolios and see if perhaps they've got an older viz that they've done that they could submit for this, because I know for sure I've done vizzes before on like volcanoes for like old Makeover Mondays that I was thinking about submitting that I'd completely forgotten about, right? So if anyone else has got a viz like that, or they want to go check through their galleries, or know anyone that's submitting vizzes on a regular basis for different topics like this, then please encourage them to submit or submit yourself.
Yeah.
We
So
do.
we got a few submissions from
Okay.
Kevin, Flalaj, and Simon, and Judith. So, and even Lindsay helped us with the viz. So yeah, we are also reaching out to people. So we look at all those galleries, right? Something from the past we do remember, and we also do that.
Yeah. So
Also, when it comes to past vizzes, it doesn't have to be limited to geography. Like if you've done a viz already, that could be, a topic that you learn at school. So anything sciencey, mathsy, history, like anything at all. You don't have to wait for that topic to come up. We're happy, please submit it now if you've already done it, because we can just start getting the gallery kind of really beefed out. And then the sooner we get the gallery built up, we can bring it out to our teachers. Yeah, we will still do, obviously, like, I think the only thing that we should be making clear there is that this month is geography. So when we do our sum up blog, we're only going to have geography vizzes in that. That doesn't mean that your viz won't be featured in a blog going forwards, but we're probably, well, I'm sure Vinodh would agree, but we're going to wait for that topic month to include those vizzes in that blog.
No, that makes sense. I think this touches on my point already, but somebody has asked, how would I get involved if I wanted to involve my kids' school, for instance? How could I get involved in that regard? So I think what you said was, if you just hold off for a minute, and then next year we then try and look to involve schools on a more personal level at that stage once you're more established. Is that right?
Of course, but I mean, if you have a teacher that's teaching volcanoes or teaching earthquakes, or a viz that we happen to have in the gallery now, then it's free to access. It's Tableau public, so they're more than welcome to go onto the website and check those out. So it's just viz2educate.com. So we kept it nice and easy for people to find. But But yeah, they just have to go onto the gallery, click on geography, and they have geography visitors in there. But obviously, right now we only have geography.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Probably in a couple of
Hopefully
months, if they have, we
more.
will get this teaching community ready, like with all these contacts, and then they can also place custom requests also for any quizzes, so which will also be taken care apart from these monthly topics.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate you coming on. I'm personally really excited about this project, and we're already looking to see how we can collaborate with Viz to Educate and IronQuest in the future, because I think the two would go perfectly together. Because I mean, earlier this year I've done IronQuest projects on sea creatures and the environment and all kind of topics that feed into the kind of things that you'll be covering anyway. So I think it makes perfect sense for us to do a collaboration. So look out for that, everyone. But yeah, thank you for coming on. If you've got any more questions for Eve and Vinodh, please stick around at the end. We've got a table labeled Viz to Educate, where Eve will be on answering any questions. I really appreciate you joining us, Vinodh, because I know it's about midnight where you are. So I totally understand why you're not going to stick around for the Q&A, but appreciate you joining us.
Thank you, Sarah. Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah,
It's an honor to be part of this.
Okay, so next up we have Savio, who's going to be talking to us about the COVID Outreach Goa program. Savio, if you want to turn your mic on.
Yeah, hello. Can you hear me?
Hi. Yeah, I can hear you.
Camera. Sorry.
Yeah, just as Eve, you can stop presenting now. That's it. Yeah. It's all yours, Savio.
Thank you. Thanks, Sarah. So I'm also sharing my screen. Hope you all can see that. Let me move that to presentation mode.
You can see your screen. It's all good to go.
Yeah, I think it's a bit slow coming on there, but yeah, there you go. Okay. I think I've lost myself here. Yeah, sorry about that. Okay, I hope you can still see me. I'll present it in this way. Yeah, I think as Sarah mentioned before, you can maximize your screen by, I think it's that one there. And yeah, that way you can see it bigger. So I'm going to talk about how I used Tableau to help COVID Outreach Goa. I hope I don't have to explain to you guys what Tableau is, but I'll definitely be talking to you about COVID Outreach Goa. Okay, a little bit about myself. I work as the business intelligence analytics manager at Inmarsat, and I've been in the data side of things for the last 16 plus years, working on various different applications around BI, data warehousing, ETL, seen a lot of tools. And I've been using Tableau since 2006. So how did I get involved with COVID Outreach Goa? If you see look at the map on the right, that's where Goa is. For those who don't know where it's on the west coast of India. And so it began around this time last year. I was in London working at Inmarsat, and I had enough. So what I wasn't, when I say enough, is just sort of not able to focus and things. Needed a career break, was missing home and family and stuff. Spoke to my boss. He said, "Yeah, okay, that's fine." And yeah, took a flight and went to go. I didn't know. I had no plans what I'd be doing there, but and then, as we all know, COVID hit. So with the lockdown and things, I was nicely at home with my parents and stuff. And that's when I came across COVID Outreach Goa. So what is COVID Outreach Goa? Basically, they were a citizen volunteering group, and as you're aware, we had lockdowns. Most of the world had lockdowns. We had lockdowns in India as well. And what that did is cause lots of different types of problems. So we had people out of work. And for some people who are pretty much hand to mouth, it's basically there was no means of living. And then the citizen volunteer group came together. So let's do something about it. How I got involved, that's also an interesting story. Basically, one day I was at home looking to do something, and then there was this group that just turned outside my door and started distributing food to people within my locality. So straight away stepped outside, started helping out, and then at the end of the long day said, do you need more help? And as it turns out, since then I've been part of the group right till the point I had to come back to London. So what the group did was supported stranded migrant workers. So basically in India, you have people migrating all across the country in search of work. And a lot of these people live on very basic needs. We got about 20-25 volunteers, and what we did is bought food in bulk, and then had to repackage them into smaller packs, and went out to distribute them. So even the packaging was on paper bags. We had people sitting at home making paper bags for us. And what we did was repackage all this food into smaller bags, loaded them into a small truck, as you can see there on the right, and went out to these places where we knew there were lots of people that were in need of food and things. So if you look at the picture there on the bottom left, that's Miriam. So she's the brainchild behind this. So she wonderful lady. She basically drove this entire operations and brought us together. If you look at the picture there, that's just one example of the number of people, and that doesn't actually portray the number of people that needed support. So as we started this, that number just grew and grew and grew. Okay, so at this point, we were going out there, different sites distributing food, and it was pretty much based on lists of names. So every time we went to a site, we were taking down information of people, and those lists just kept growing and growing. So we needed a way to manage that. And at this point, also we were looking for more funds, more and much needed funds to continue supporting this operation. And then we had a sort of website. So for people who don't know, you can pretty much put up a website if you use Google Sites quite easily, and that's what we did. But what we also wanted to do is portray showcase the efforts that was going behind this. And since I've used Tableau before, I suggested, okay, why not we build a dashboard? So that's how we then created this. So what I did is basically got one of the volunteers to start recording the data in Google Sheets. And once you have it in Google Sheets, it's basically publicly available. You can share it. Hooked up Tableau Public to it, created a dashboard, as you can see there, and then finally linked it to the website. So if I show an example, yeah, so that's the live data there. That's a Google Sheet. That's the Tableau Public dashboard. And this gave us a nice way of looking at the data. It showed the different locations we went to. If I click on Mercedes, for example, that's my hometown. It showed us the number of people we were distributing, rations to also what items we were distributing, and so on. And you can also then embed it on a website, which is what we did. So this is the website for COVID Outreach Goa, and then you've got the dashboard embedded in there. So it gives a nice view for our donors and likes of what's going on. So that was great, and certainly helped us. What basically it helped us do is it helped us track our distributions, and it helped us plan and schedule things better. So we knew just from looking at the data when we were going to the different locations. So we knew when we'd have to go next. We were going to a place every 3 or 4 days. It also helped us with knowing the number of people in the location. We knew how many food packs we would have to pack. So basically it was just volunteers day in and day out doing the repackaging. We didn't want to burn everyone out, so we knew each day how many packs we needed. So it helped in there. The highlight of the whole basically program was us then showcasing this to the government and getting the government efforts also synchronized, and if I remember correctly, that was very interesting. If you see the picture on the right there, so that's a government office, typical government office in India. Looks intimidating. It's like a court setup. I think that was a collector's office, high chair there. You can see me and Miriam there, me and my laptop basically. And it was literally like we were just explaining what we were up to and how we could help. Showed him the dashboard, if you like. Really got them impressed, and it really got them engaged, because even though the government was trying to help these people, they were not as organized, or certainly didn't have the amount of resources that we could pull together. So when they saw what we were doing, we were much more aligned. They had a lot of food supply. They just didn't have resources to get them out there. So, which was great, because we were when we ran out of our funds and food and things, all we had to do is submit information about the people who needed the food to the government officials. And in fact, I must say that there were points where, for example, if someone didn't was struggling with food, they try and get in touch with us on WhatsApp. We were so in sync then with the government efforts, as we just send the information on, and the very same day that be food reaching these people, which was really great. So this went on for about 2 months, April, May, if I remember. Towards the end of May, the lockdown started lifting. People started going back into work, but it was still a struggle, because a lot of businesses had closed down. Remember, a lot of these people are daily wage workers, so they rely on just contracts that come for the day. So again, Miriam basically called me and said, "Well, you know what? We've got all this data. Can we help with basically helping these people get work?" I said, "Why not?" So we looked at the data again, and that's when sort of Core Gold was born, which stands for COVID Outreach Go Online Labor Directory. And in the initial stages, it was still in Tableau. We had a list of the same people that we were giving food rations to. We ran some surveys. Again, we gathered some volunteers, got them to call up people, ask them what their skills were, and things, enriched our database, and then we created things like a form on at the website or on the Facebook page. And it was simple jobs, like people who wanted to maybe clean up their gardens or fix their roofs, because before the monsoons came in. And then once we had small jobs like those coming in, we were then able to connect it to people who were looking to just get paid for the day. Of course, that Tableau wasn't sustainable for that, because every time, what that meant is me having to give access to the Tableau workbook on Tableau Public, and that database was just growing. At which point we then had support from another company called Airtable, and that's a much better platform for collaborative efforts. Also, it was time for me to come back to London, and so in September I moved back over here, and I'm still in touch with people. There's less of an activity going on, but COG still exists in a slightly different name. They call it Change on Ground these days, and more of a sort of formalized, registered NGO. But yes, so that was what I was up to in my career break in India during lockdown. So in terms of what's next, I'm going to be running or cycling, it depends, for a charity called React. And if you've not heard of React, it's an organization that helps in disaster recovery. So when there's cyclones and floods and things, to deploy people to help out with recovery efforts. However, this year, since March, they've been mostly involved in the COVID response here in London and in pretty much the whole country. Now, I haven't been able to be involved with them since March, because I was doing my own stuff in India. But since tomorrow, actually, they've got a challenge. I've subscribed to 450 kilometers. It's not just one person. There's 4 of us going to be doing it from tomorrow for 14 days. Now, if you like to support us, there's the link. But more importantly, what I'm also looking to do is try and hook up our Strava data into Tableau Public. And I've made some attempts, but with limited success. And so if anyone's out there who can help me with how to pull out the Strava data and showcase that, that'll be very useful. I'm planning to then use social media, Facebook and Twitter to try and promote this. Yeah, and that's what I wanted to talk to you about.
Thank you so much, Savio. That was really interesting to hear about everything you did while you were back in Goa. We have one question that's come in. As how are you able to ensure the privacy of the volunteers and people receiving food parcels if the data was stored in Google Sheets or Tableau Public?
Yeah, so what I think what we exposed outside or on public was just the summarized data. Google Sheets was still within my account. Might have missaid something there that was public. The Google Sheets was still controlled internally. We had a comment. We then shared it within the Google accounts of the volunteers and things. And it's a very good question, actually, and definitely something that always kept coming to us, especially dealing with governments and things. We certainly didn't want to give people's information to them, but what we were able to provide is just names and numbers of people, because that was the minimum thing that we had to provide so that help could reach them. But certainly not things like what's equivalent to social security in US. You've got something called Aadhaar and stuff. But yeah,
okay. And congratulations on signing up for the Strava and Tableau Public challenge that you're doing. What motivated you to sign up to support React?
Good question. React, actually, I've been part of React for a while now. It's also an organization that Inmarsat supports, and that's how I got to know about them, because Inmarsat supports React with also Satellite Kit. When they go to these disaster recovery zones and things, the only mode of communication sometimes in those areas is satellite. So along with that, what our company also does is, well, if they need to send people to do for volunteering, they give us 5 days on top of our annual leave to go and react. So that's how I'm involved.
Okay, brilliant. I think there's some blog posts in the community by Andy Kriebel, Andy Cockgreave, and possibly even Murray about how to connect to Strava data. So I can share those with you and everyone else. So hopefully they'll get you on your way to help you visualize that data as part of this challenge.
All right, thanks, Sarah.
Just before you go, Laura's asked a question. She said that you must be mad to sign up to this challenge, first of all. But she said that do you use Tableau outside of work much, perhaps in things like Viz for Social Good or other community projects?
Yeah. 4 people, so I managed to rope in 4 people to help me. In terms of using Tableau, yeah, wherever possible, I try and pull up Tableau. Whenever the Iron Viz comes up, make attempts at it. I mean, it was great to hear Eve and Vinodh early on the Viz to educate. Certainly, I think if a topic on birds comes up, I'm interested to resurrect one of my old Vizes and maybe submit that.
Yeah.
To them.
Okay, well, I'm sure it will. I'm sure there'll be something that fits that bill. But thank you very much for joining us today. We appreciate you taking the time. And then if you can share your slides or link to your slides afterwards, that'll be great, so we can share them with everybody.
Sure,
okay,
thank you.
Thank you. And our final speaker of the night is Mina. Mina is going to be talking to us about Starcraft. Hi, Mina.
Awesome. Yeah, just give me 1 second to make sure everything's set up.
No worries. And I believe, because you're based in London, but you're currently in Chicago, is that right? Or I get confused about where you are.
Yeah, I'll go through a little bit in my intro, but if you've been to the London Tugs for many years, a few years ago, I used to be a very active member coming to Bluefin often. And about a year ago or so, I moved to Chicago. I did get stuck in the UK for about 9 months when COVID happened. But I am originally a London Tug member before I became a Chicago Tug member.
Yeah, and you abandoned us, but there you go. Thanks for joining us today. It's all yours. I can see your slides.
Awesome. So evening, afternoon, morning, for wherever you are tuning in from, thank you very much for sticking around all the way to the end for my talk, which is Data Analytics for Starcraft 2, which goes through a personal project of mine, hopefully to help others get inspired to apply their Tableau skills to whatever topic or community they're interested in. And also just to tell you a little bit about kind of what the process has been for that and how I got involved in the first place. So a little bit about myself. I know I kind of somewhat introduced myself. I am currently a partner and consultant at a company called Aimpoint Digital, and they are based anywhere in the US, but we do actually have a UK office now, though it is very small. As I mentioned, you may have known me as an alumni of the Information Labs Data School in the UK, where, again, I would frequently come to the London Tugs, or the Information Lab often hosts public events. So if you've gone to any trainings in London, you may have noticed me floating about there. And what I'm here to talk to you today about, which is that I am a content creator for Root Gaming, or otherwise known as Root for Root, which is a North American professional StarCraft 2 team. Let me rewind a couple of years. So where was I in my analytic journey back in 2018? So this was maybe about a year into using Tableau and Alteryx and some other tools. And I was, a fresh graduate that didn't really come from a design background or any kind of data degree background per se. I was just learning how to use the tools, learning how to work with data. So almost all of my visualization work that I did was purely for business purposes, or I was involved with community projects like Makeover Monday or Workout Wednesday, but not because I was necessarily interested in the topics, just so that I could get better at the tool set. So I was involved with some things outside of work, but nothing that I was doing was something that was of personal interest to myself. And it was never really so much more than me just doing it to get better like practice with Tableau. If we fast forward to the end of 2018, I had a little bit of free time apart from my consultancy gig where I could think a little bit more and say to myself, I've got this skill set that's somewhat developed now. What can I do with it? What would I be interested in? And, I should use my skills that I have that I've been doing for work and I get paid to do for something that I actually love to do. So I thought at that time, Starcraft. Starcraft would be a really good project. And you may ask, what is Starcraft? So Starcraft 2 is a 1v1 real-time strategy game. Starcraft is the grandfather of professional esports, which is people playing against each other competitively for money. It's a highly strategic and technically challenging game. So there's a lot of areas and room for analytics. And it's just very interesting to try and think about the different complexities within this game. So I knew that I wanted to work on this particular game and do a visualization for it. And again, it was just to do one particular project for this game that I loved. I had no idea, what was out in terms of data that I could use, if it would be possible. I had no knowledge of if this would work, but I wanted to do something with Starcraft. So my process in making this first project was, okay, first I have to find the data. Then I have to do my visual analytics, and then I have to design my dashboard, which is not too unlike any project that you're going to do at work. So the data I ended up using is from a website called Ali Gulak, which has basically professional matches of StarCraft players. It records every single match on a very high level. So player A played player B, player A was this race, and it's race within the game, not demographic race. And player A won, for example. So very, very high level, but very many records over many years. So it was detailed in that regard. And you could just download the database and kind of work with it from there. So it was quite interesting, if not rich data. In terms of what I wanted to do for visual analytics for this, it wasn't too novel to myself. I wanted to do a network chart, which I have done before, but I wanted to try something new, which was I'd have a network chart which represented every player and the distance was how often they played with other players. But then I wanted to create these little polygons behind it that would represent regions so that I could see, okay, so all these players tend to play together, and here is the US region, and here's the Korea scene, and here is the European scene. And the reason I wanted to do that is because I knew within StarCraft they have a concept called region locking, which is where they basically disallow players from certain regions to enter competitions with other players. So, for example, players from Korea in particular were disallowed from entering European tournaments because if they allowed everybody to enter every competition would basically be exactly the same. And all the Koreans would win all the tournaments because they were very good at StarCraft. So whether rightly or wrongly, there was region locking, and that makes the kind of professional match scene look interesting in terms of if you were to network it out. And then the design process. So as I kind of mentioned, I didn't come from a design background. My understanding of design at this time, it was non-existential. I didn't even think of changing the default fonts in Tableau at this point. So I had a little bit more time to myself, so I spent some time looking online, watching YouTube videos for graphic designers, just teaching them the basic concepts of, font colors and weights and contrast and all the rest of it. So I'm going to show you some very early iterations. Now, they are very early iterations, and I'm not saying the end piece is much better, but you can see that I was just kind of exploring at this time, which I hadn't really had the room to do before. I was, looking at this and saying, do I want to connect things with straight lines or curvy lines? Is it easier to understand the networks if I split them out of the dots? Various things like that, trying out charts with the different regions to see how much the different regions play with each other. And as you can see on the top left, I was also trying some new techniques that they do in graphic designs, like making blocks that represent the different elements on my dashboard and moving them around to try and see, you know, what looks well and how is it using the space properly. And again, all of these were like new concepts to me at this point in time. Before, I was just, you know, here's a top 5 customers, here is your overall profit, here's your percentage. So this was definitely fun and a big piece in exploration for me. And I kept iterating this process and these designs until I was happy with it at the time, or as I would like to say, until I gave up on it, basically. And this is the end piece that I did. So it pretty much did achieve what I wanted it to. It took a long time to get there with these polygons that are effectively kind of like a spatial object called convex holes. And I had to create some like qualifications for that. And I had to group the regions up in particular ways, like Europe and Russia going together, and then Korea being its own region, APAC being there, and Americas, and so on. And in fact, I'm just going to go ahead and, if I can, show you the actual interactive one. It may just take a second to reload, but hopefully, if the internet's not too bad, I can just show you what it looks like when you interact with it. And beyond from the design standpoint and otherwise like thinking more about the data because it was data I was interested in, I was also trying a lot of techniques in terms of interactivity. So if I click a point here, there are bar charts that are going to then cover up some of the elements that were there prior. There are different things that will like expand and hide for controls. And this is like very old version of Tableau in 2018. So we didn't have collapsible containers and things at the time. So it was a very fun piece for me, and I learned a lot doing it. And I kind of thought that would be all that it was. But that wasn't all that it was, and it was kind of pure chance that it turned into anything more. I would have been perfectly happy if that viz was just there and that was all that turned of it, because I learned a lot and I appreciated the learning experience. But when I posted this data viz onto Twitter, I had some communications with a person named Katz, and Katz is actually the owner of Root, and he is also a streamer and used to be professional StarCraft 2 player. And he basically had said, you know, I like the content that you've done. Do you want to be a content creator for Root Gaming? And you know, at first I was like, this is super exciting. I don't even care that I don't get paid or anything. Like, this is incredible to me, because if I think about it, you know, 8-9 years ago, I was watching these people on Twitch as like a passive observer, and now I can be an active participant. So of course I was ecstatic to be able to, you know, contribute to this community that I've gotten so much entertainment out of. The second thing after I had that excitement was knowing that I was going to have a lot of time challenges. So with a commitment comes, you know, all of the difficulties of keeping up that commitment. And, you know, it was not my day job. It was going to be something I was doing exclusively out of work. And I was a consultant, so I may be working a bit longer hours than just being able to do a 9-to-5. So, you know, how do I manage these challenges? And I thought to myself, you know, I've taken my Tableau skills and applied them to a community I love in order to contribute to that community. Why don't I take my skills from work to then also help myself manage these? So within work, you're often going to have tools to help you with project management or just particular styles of management that would help with this. And you also are often going to have dashboard templates at work, which you may not have as much with community projects. So why don't I try to use those two things? So what I did was I would use Trello to help manage the different articles that we wanted to publish. And I would use Discord to communicate with the different content creators that I created these articles with. So how would it work in terms of a process? I would work quite often with a person who went by the name of Fernaf, and she, much like somebody who stands at the train station, watches the trains go by and record the times that they're coming in, she would actually watch professional StarCraft 2 matches and record things by hand, and then she would later go back and write her kind of personal notes into a data set. It's kind of crazy how she did that. But we had to do this very kind of manual way, also because the data for StarCraft 2 games were not being released for these tournaments. To give a little bit of context to that, StarCraft 2 records every single action in a game, and that that set of actions is stored in a file called a replay. It's a very tiny file, and with a lot of coding and with great difficulty, you can basically get every bit of information that is in a game. Every time the player moves their camera, clicks their mouse, every unit that is built and moved and upgrades that are built, every single thing in a game can be parsed out with heavy code. But for certain tournaments, they wouldn't release these replays. So the only way that you could get data for them would be to manually watch them, or to create something that's kind of smart and watches it for you and collects it. But we went with this kind of more old-fashioned approach. So regardless, she would watch whole tournaments, every single game in a tournament, record all of the data for it, and she could have her own custom way of labeling it because she was watching it. Very, very rich data. And she would provide me these data sets, and we would do a bunch of different articles that were analytics on this tournament. That's just an example of one of the main kind of pieces that I would work with her on. So we had our collaboration, which was called Chatterplots, and a lot of these articles went through this. But she wasn't the only stakeholder I was having to basically work with. And I say stakeholder, you know, she's my friend and collaborator and content creator, but they are like stakeholders. I would work with somebody else who would also provide me data that he has not so much collected, and I would work with him on just the odd piece here and there. And it might be slightly different. Maybe it's not tournament data. Maybe it's just StarCraft 2 earnings. Maybe it's the demographics of StarCraft 2 players and the races that they play within the game, for example. And as you can see, I didn't really keep a very particularly professional Trello board, but that wasn't the point. The point is that it helped us get through the process. If things were being blocked by invalid data or somebody needing to do the write-up, it was very easy to kind of get through the process from start to finish. And templates were also really helpful to help reduce the time that it took to build these dashboards out for articles. So because they were going to be embedded on a website, there were certain conventions that we had to have. So the background had to be consistent. That was fine. But then for my own sake, I would have these templates out with the same fonts, and each of the races have an associated color with them. So I just made a color palette that kind of went with the background and with the races as I wanted to use them. And as you can see, we did a bunch of different visualizations, and I'll show some articles in a second. Let me see if I can jump over to them. So here is them actually embedded in the articles themselves. I can't say exactly how many we've done nowadays, but you know, we would do a variety of different things, whether it be purely just with the visualizations, or sometimes we would do some statistical tests with them as well. And even sometimes, like in this case, we were doing a visualization which was on the Root Gaming team themselves as opposed to the StarCraft 2 game. Oh, if it just refreshes. And yeah, they were really fun to build. So let me go ahead and jump back. So yeah, I showed this article, but this is just one of the article examples of many. So when building out all of these new visualizations for these articles, this is a new audience of people compared to the business context I've worked in prior. And with that new audience comes, of course, new challenges. Now, I'm going to make some generalizations, which are generalizations, so they're not fair for everybody and maybe not in your experience, but what I found to be the case is when you are developing for business users, or the particular kind of business users that we get asked to develop for, they are actually quite sophisticated in reading data visualizations. So what do I mean by that? The people that we're often building for, you know, they look at charts every day, whether they're in PowerPoint presentations or in their meetings or an operational dashboard they have to check to see how their department is performing. The average person on the internet does not interact with charts on a daily basis. So there are very odd things that will confuse them that would not confuse a normal person in the business context. So the example I give here is a histogram. There's a certain convention to histograms that you would learn in education where the frequency is going to be on your y-axis and whatever the bins are on your x-axis. Now, it was actually one of the articles I showed earlier. We rotated a histogram to make it easier to read and also to split for the different races. And by us doing this rotation, we had so many people confused about how to read this. You know, it's to us, it seemed like such an intuitive thing, but for them, they are just so used to a certain convention that it was really quite difficult for them to read this histogram in this new way. So it was at that point that even if the chart type was simple, I really had to start and be very simplistic and considerate with how I was designing my charts, because I couldn't guarantee that the user that is interacting with them would necessarily be able to, move things around in their mind in the same way. Like, I had to think about what were the conventions that were taught in school. So I've mentioned one of the reasons why I think this may have been the case, which is that, I'm used to designing for business users versus the common populace. But the other two things that would have contributed to this is the fact that when you leave something on the internet, it's a lot more unsupervised than when you're creating something in a business context. So if I create dashboards for a business context, if it's a really important dashboard, I might often create a YouTube video or just some sort of recording that would explain to them how to navigate through the dashboard, how to use all the interactivity. I'm not so much going to do that for every chart on every article that I'm creating, because already in the first place, I have a very tight time constraint for building these. I might only have an hour or 2 hours to create the charts for an article that we need to release for tomorrow. So I really don't have the time to necessarily create video content for them, and it's not feasible at the scale that we were trying to do these articles. So again, I can't necessarily guide them in the particular way that I would with video content, because all I can do is use subtitles and write descriptions. So to my last point, the internet is the internet. So no matter how much I try to explain things, I even had one post where almost the entire article was just explaining how to use the chart to try and make sure, because it was a complicated chart type, people would be able to use it correctly. And no matter how much you try and account for that, some people just don't want to read. Some people don't care. Some people will just intentionally try and just be subversive and just not interpret things properly. And that's okay, because for the vast majority, people will try to understand the work that you're doing, especially if they're in the Starcraft community and they're trying to learn more about Starcraft, the game, and improve themselves or understand more about the game. The vast majority of people are actually going to try and use your work in the way that it was intended, compared to the people that are intentionally trying to undermine the work that you're creating. So what were the outcomes of getting involved with Root Gaming and creating all this content and doing all this work? Well, as I say, we did a lot of data visualization content, maybe not the most beautiful and creative chart types possible, but I think analytically speaking, a lot of the articles that we made, I'm quite proud of, and I feel like I educated myself on a lot of these topics, which was why I got into it in the first place, because it was something that I felt I could learn from by doing this project. I also got a new community to share visual analytics with and contribute towards actively. So before, I'd only been involved with the bubble that is the Tableau community on Twitter or otherwise. And it is a good community, don't get me wrong, but there's a different kind of interaction with creating content that people are going to actively want to use versus stuff on public that people may just look at on their Twitter feed and they never click into and they never use. So you had to be a lot more proactive with, I think, how you're designing something and making sure that it is very usable, because it's a different kind of audience online. And because of that fact, I learned a lot from them. The audience on Reddit, which is primarily where I publish to, is a lot more harsh and a lot more critical, but it also forces you, therefore, to think a lot about the work that you're creating and to make sure that it is as accessible as possible and that you try and account for everybody as much as you possibly can. And it really helps you to be thoughtful about the work you're creating. And lastly, I created a great set of new friendships and partnerships in analytics. We have Discord communities, Discord being a place kind of like Slack that you can communicate with people on. Just for StarCraft 2 analytics, and they come from such a diverse set of backgrounds, people that are front engineers, back engineers, and people like me that don't even code, and we're all collecting together just because we love to create content for StarCraft 2 analytics. And I want to wrap this up with a highlight of mine during this time. So there is a show, a StarCraft 2 show that is weekly. It's called The Pylon Show. And it's where these leading community members kind of go online and they talk about topics, but they also have a section which is dedicated to looking at content. And we have done so many articles with so many basic chart types for weeks before this particular show. And for some reason, the one time that we use a Sankey, it gets picked for this show, and it was soul crushing. It's like we've done so many like really readable and understandable charts, and we just wanted to have a little bit of fun. And so we did this Sankey that represents like build order. So it's the first building build to the second, to the third, to the fourth. And inevitably, all of them, for the first time when they're looking at it, and they're only given maybe like 5 minutes on the show to even look at it, are just completely like baffled and laughing and having a good time and, you know, picking fun at it. And it's all in good humor. But I put a quote up there, which I just loved, which is, "This is parts of college I didn't even venture into." And one of the other guys said, "Can I have it in a pie chart?" So I of course sighed, and then after the show, I sent him this screenshot with, for good measure, Comic Sans font pie chart so that he could understand it better. Thank you very much for staying and tuning in. If you have any questions, as Sarah said, please put them in the Q&A, or otherwise I will be around in my table later so that you can ask questions.
Thank you so much, Mina. That was super interesting to hear more about like the Starcraft kind of journey. I remember when you posted that first viz and that the stir that it caused, and I literally had no idea what it was on, but it was so beautiful that it just like drew me in. But yeah, no, just curious, how long did it take you to build your initial like Starcraft viz, right from data collection to publishing?
Too long, way too long. I spent so long playing around with the data and filtering the records just to try and get the network charts to have some sort of shape with the regions to take out all the data dirt. And then especially playing around with like the polygons and the spatial objects. Like if you ever download that workbook, you'll see there's like sheets on top of sheets in order to improve the performance, to make sure, because it was so slow originally because of the spatial objects. So I would say like a solid few months, and people be like, "Oh my God, you spent a few months on that." But I really spent that long just going back and forth. And it was the first time I was even thinking about design. So it took me a long time, I would say.
Yeah, but it's a passion project. So I think it makes it very different. It's not like you spent 3 months on a business dashboard, for instance. It was something you actually like, you're interested in. I've done exactly the same thing, spent way too long on something just because I'm interested in it, right? So if you were to build that viz again, given what you know now, is there anything that you would do differently?
Oh, definitely. Like I feel, even though I'm pretty happy in general with some of the design decisions I made at the time, like I definitely have a better understanding of space, and like some of the stuff is really crammed towards the edges. I might try and do a little bit more fun with the layering of it. So I've got like kind of like 2 or 3 layers right now where I've got the nodes and the connections, and then I've got the polygons for the regions. I might try and add a little bit more spice to it than that, I think. Mm-hmm. That's probably the main thing, is just making it more rich than it is already.
Okay. I found it super interesting as well, some of your observations around the audience and how you needed to consider kind of like their data literacy levels and like chart types they'd be comfortable with. I think we all kind of operate in this bubble, and I think it's very easy sometimes just to assume that everyone can read charts in the same way that we can. I've read surveys that have found that there's certain people that don't understand how to read bar charts. Yeah, I think we automatically assume that everyone can. So I found that super interesting. So yeah, thank you for joining us today. Really appreciate it. It was a really interesting talk. As Mina said, we're going to move to the tables now. We've got tables for each of our speakers. So if you do have any more questions for Mina or for any of the other speakers, please go and find their table and have a chat with them there. If not, please stick around. We've got around 30 minutes to network and just talk to each other. Each table holds up to 6 people. So please feel free to move around tables and have fun. But thank you for joining us. We'll be back with another tug very soon. I'm not sure if we're going to be doing a quiz this year for Christmas, but we'll see. So watch this space, but we'll be in touch. And this video will be available on YouTube very soon as well. Thanks, everybody.